learning how to make the Hourglass Quilt Square and a wall hanging. We had an owl, a fake owl that was an outside one that was hanging up on the back of our house in our old home. And whenever I saw it, it was a white owl. It was beautiful. And every time I saw it, I just felt so peaceful, and that it was protecting us mostly from mice getting in the house. It felt like it was scaring away the mice, right? So when we decided to move, the day before we moved, this beautiful white owl came, and it just floated or soared in, and it landed on our back fence, and it just sat there looking at me. And I just had this overwhelming feeling that God wanted me to know that we were doing what we were supposed to do, and that everything was going to go well. And I know you each probably have your own things, little things that help you know that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? Well, I love owls for that reason. And so I'm actually going to make a couple of these to hang on my walls, and then share them with some of my friends. But so today I'm going to focus on this one right here, down at the bottom, right in the middle. I really like as you can see, it actually matches what I'm wearing. It's some of my favorite colors are the purple and the teal blue. So I'm going to do that one today. And the fabrics that I have found, I'm going back and forth between, I've got this multicolored one, and I have a purple, and then I have this. It's a variegated blues and yellows and golds, and so what I'm going to do is turn into some little quilt squares to go around it. And so we'll go ahead and go from there, and I'll show you which quilt square we're going to do. So we're going to take our fabric, I just ironed it, and now we're going to go ahead and cut off the selvage of both ends. Now what we're going to do is fold it in half, and I'm going to cut a 5-inch strip. I'm going to take each of the pieces of fabric that I have and cut 5 inches from each one. Okay, once I have that, I'm going to set aside and grab my other fabric and cut it. I'm going to do the same thing for each one, cutting off selvage and then cutting one strip that's 5 inches wide. So when you have variegated fabric, you can look at both ends and see if there's a different color on the other end. Looks like on this, it's about the same. So because I want some of this color in the center, I'm going to cut the strip the whole length. So this is actually a backing that I purchased that I've been using for different projects. Sometimes you can get really good deals on 108 inches wide, and then you can use it for for different projects if you're not going to use it for a backing, or you can buy it for a backing and then use the leftover for whatever projects you have. So when you're cutting several layers, you need to make sure that they're all lined up before you begin cutting. So this one actually has a lot of strings on the edge, so I'm going to just trim off probably 1/4 of an inch, and then I'll have a straight cut without a whole bunch of strings. Now we're going to take our strips and we're going to cut them the other direction and make 5-inch squares. So they'll be 5 inches by 5 inches. So as you can see here, I went ahead and chose the different colors that I wanted. I decided that I wanted them to match either from there to there or over here and over here and over here. So anyway, they're matching in one way or another. I like choosing some kind of a color scheme so that they can all go together. Before I got started, I went ahead and labeled each piece, whether it was the bottom, right, middle, left, it was middle of the top. So I have every single piece labeled. I pinned them on, and so that when I do each piece, I will know where it's going to go on my around my wall hanging. You're going to take your square, you're going to lay it down, and then you're going to take your ruler and you're going to put it so it is just to the side of your point. So here's the point of my square, and then I'm going to take just a pencil or a pen. I'm going to draw a line right down the center. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to do that to all of them. And then I'm going to do 1/4 of an inch on the right side of this line, and then I'm going to flip it around and I'm going to do 1/4 of an inch on the other side. And then when I'm done with that, I'm just going to cut it down the center. Okay, so I'm going to go and I'm going to sew all of these, and I'm going to come back and cut them with you. Okay, now that we have them all sewn, we're going to take the ruler and put it back on where the line is so that we can cut right on top of that line. So I'm going to put right to the left of the line, and then I'm going to take my rotary cutter and cut it right down the middle. So I want to show you what it's going to look like. So now we've got our 2 squares. We're going to make it so that we iron it over to the dark side, okay, and then finger press. I will be taking them all over to the iron in a minute. I just want to show you this. Okay, and then this is when you can just take your rotary cutter. Once you've got it done, just cut off these little ends once it's open. Okay, now we're going to take these and we're going to take them over to the ironing board and iron them all open. So we're going to decide which one is the darkest one. For me, that's the darkest one. Then we're going to press towards that side for each of them. So that's what we're going to do now, is just iron each of them open. And then I'll take it back and I'm going to trim off each of the tails. I'm going to continue to pin on my papers. Today we are going to learn how to make the Hourglass Quilt Square. Once you have your squares all sewn and ironed, then you're going to take it and you're going to cut it diagonal the other direction. Okay, so we're going to put the line right to the side of the point because you want to cut right down the center of the point. We need to cut the other one. Now we're switching them. Okay, so now you can see right here, this is the Hourglass Quilt Square. So now we're going to take it, we're going to nestle our two lines together. So we're going to take it and we're going to line it up right in the center and grab our pin. So once you have one side against the other, we're going to pin it right here in the center. Okay. Now I'm going to get the other one and line that one up. You can go ahead and do all of them at the same time, and then you can do chain sewing where you're just going to sew along each one so that you don't have to use a lot of thread in between. Okay, once we've sewn all of our pieces, now we're going to iron them open. And then we're going to go trim off all of the little tails. So this is our little hourglass square. So now I've laid out all my squares how I want to do them, and I'm going to start sewing them. I'm going to sew the side ones together first, and then I'll sew the top ones, and then I'll sew them onto my square. So once I had all the pieces sewn together, I noticed that my pieces were a little bit shorter than they needed to be on the side. So I sewed some black on both ends to help make the difference. And I'm gonna trim off the black on the bottom, and then it'll be pretty much where it needs to be. And then I'll be sewing it together. So you will have to make adjustments for your pieces to make sure that they fit. So after comparing all of my different fabrics that would match the owl, I decided that I wanted this fabric right here to be the backing of my fabric. So here we have my finished quilt square, my wall hanging. And you can see here what I've done is I have approximately 1.5 to 2 inches around the whole entire thing. So right now I pinned it on, and then I started just doing my own little quilting by following the lines on both sides. And then I'm doing it this way also. I'm going to go around the owl, and then I'm going to go down each line to do my quilting. I have now finished the quilting all the way around it. So like I said, I went up one side and down the other on each of the pieces, each of the squares. Thank you for joining me this week, learning how to make the Hourglass Quilt Square and a wall hanging. And join me next week to learn how you can take the back of your quilt and put it onto the front to make binding. Remember, if you see something here that you really like and you really enjoy watching, please subscribe and like and share with your friends.